Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Vincent Pizzulli, attorney to the board. To his left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the planning department. To his left is David Barnes, assistant planning director. And to his left is Peter Hans, planning director. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide us with precise, accurate information so we as a board can make decisions based on the facts that you present here tonight. We as a board must consider the following conditions. They're listed here for you. Number one, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number two, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some of the means. Number three, whether the variance is substantial. Number four, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And number five, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you'll be asked to go to the podium where you'll state your name and address for the record and proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. When they are finished, then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are three ways to find out about your case. There are three ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have a rehearing. Case number 18128, Matika. That'll be reheard on August 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18192, CNS Remodelers, 22 San Juanico Avenue. The location of the property, the northwest corner of San Juanico Avenue and Lindell Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet for an existing 2,885 square foot single-family home with 423 square foot garage.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John Reese, JW Consultants, Post Office Box 674, Coram, New York. I turned in my paperwork already, along with the power of attorney. We're seeking relief due to the fact that the surveyor inadvertently marked the foundation plan in the wrong location. The house was built 5 feet closer to the street. As you can see by the house, this will definitely not cause any kind of harmful deterioration of pricing or environmental. The house is extremely big, but extremely beautiful. They will not lower any property values. It will definitely add to the community, and it conforms well with the community. This was not caused by the applicant, but this was caused by the surveyor doing an inadequate job in placing the markers for the foundation pour.
All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Have a great night. Good luck.
You too.
You'll be good now.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18193, Thomas Molinelli, 50 Howell Drive, Smithtown, the location of the property, the north side of Howell Drive, 536 feet north of Rice Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 6 feet, reduce total side yards from 28 feet to 22 feet for an existing 388 square foot deck.
Good evening.
Good evening, Louis Castellano for the applicant, 2693 Middle Country Road, Lake Grove, New York.
Was all your paperwork handed?
I handed everything in already, yes. Sorry. As you can see, this deck has been here for about 15 years. We don't feel there's any environmental problems. It was self-created. At the time, they didn't realize what they were doing. It shouldn't affect any of the neighbors, and we believe it's a simple variance.
How high is the deck?
It's approximately about 16 inches off the ground.
6 inches?
16,
16.
yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Do I have a motion to close the application, please?
Second?
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, have a good evening.
Thank you.
The next application on the agenda, case number 18194, Joseph Girandola, 3 Penguin Lane, Comac, the location of the property, the east side of Penguin Lane, 93 feet east of Veterans Highway. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 60 feet to 47 feet for an existing 170 square foot addition.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Christina Fry, an attorney with offices at 7 Pine Ridge Drive, Smithtown, New York, 11787, on behalf of the homeowner Joseph Girandola this evening. As you can see from the survey that was submitted, or perhaps maybe you don't see, it's cut off on the date, but the survey that was used was from 1969, and that survey shows a porch with roof over. At some point over the last, about 40 to 50 years ago, the porch with roof over was enclosed, not by the current homeowner, but probably a homeowner 2 or 3 ownerships beyond him. Somewhat of a surprise when we came to legalize a pool, and we found that this item had no CO as well. No undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. It has existed for decades and decades at this point with no devaluation in property surrounding it. The benefit sought by the applicant of an addition cannot be achieved by any other method. The house itself never made the 60-foot R15 setbacks. The dimensions of this porch are 10 by 17, and we're looking for a 13-foot setback into the rear yard. The house itself was 3 feet shy of the setback to begin with. It only met a 57-foot setback when it was built. I don't feel that the area variance is substantial. As I said, it's only 170 square feet for a 10 by 17 enclosed porch, and should not have any adverse effect or impact on the physical environment, as it's existed many years, and it's made of the same materials that the house itself was made of, and the alleged difficulty was not created by this homeowner in particular.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Do you have a motion to close the application, please?
Second?
Move to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank
Have
you.
a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18195, excuse me, Jeff Rierick, 22 Parnell Drive, Smithtown, the location of the property, the south side of Parnell Drive, 600 feet west of Mulberry Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 37 feet for a proposed 400 square foot rear covered deck. Decrease the minimum distance from a lot line from 6 feet to 4 feet for an existing 200 square foot shed.
Good evening.
Good evening. Is it okay if my architect speaks on my behalf?
Could you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jeff Rearick, 22 Parnell Drive, Smithtown, New York,
Thank you.
11787.
And you would like this gentleman to speak on your behalf? Fine, thank you. Could you state your name, spell your last name for the record, and give your address, please?
Edward Koenig, Koenig. I maintain an office at 415 Lake Avenue South, Wisconsin, New York, 11767. We're asking permission for a rear yard relaxation for an accessory shed and also for a proposed roof-over patio for my client's enjoyment of his backyard and his pool. There are similar precedents in the neighborhood already at 20 Parnell, 26 Parnell, 27 Mulberry, 21 Mulberry, and 9 Mulberry, all rear roof-over porches or rear additions to existing homes for the similar purposes of enjoyment of the rear yards and in-ground pools. We don't feel that this relaxation request is too exorbitant for the neighborhood, since there are already existing precedents in the neighborhood. And being that it's in the rear yard, the adjacent neighbors really won't see the addition from their views. I have some renderings that are on the board already for the board to review, and I also have an aerial photo of the adjacent precedents in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. The concrete slab, is that existing, and you're just putting a roof over it?
There was originally a deck there that was removed, so right now it's just a sand base.
Okay, and you're going to pour a concrete?
Yes, actually I have a picture of that, the existing condition right now.
That's okay. It's fine. All right. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Thank you. Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18196, James McCabe, 157 Grassy Pond Road South, Smithtown. The location of the property is the east side of Grassy Pond Drive South, 316 feet north of Veterans Memorial Highway. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit living quarters for a child and a variance to reduce the total side yards from 34 feet to 26 feet for an 800 square foot first floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening, Board. My proposal and request to the Board is to build an addition to my existing home at 157 Grassy Pond Drive, Smithtown, to provide a home for my daughter and her 4 young children, ages 11, 7, 4, and 1. This decision was made primarily to provide
Excuse me.
close... I'm
Excuse me,
sorry.
sir. I don't mean to interrupt you, but my fault. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, my name is James McCabe. My address is 157 Grassy Pond Drive, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Thank you.
Continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, again, this proposal and my request to the Board is to build an addition to my existing home at 157 Grassy Pond Drive, to provide a home for my daughter, Angelica, and her 4 young children, age 11, 7, 4, and 1. This decision was made primarily to provide close support for my daughter, who was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This is an affliction causing joints and bones to become brittle, resulting in dislocations. In this arrangement, my wife Elizabeth and I will be available to provide close support and monitoring of my daughter and provide for medical and emergency assistance if necessary, but most important, to help to care for the young children. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on the application?
No question. No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved. Second?
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks for your help.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18197, Amy Jo and Frank DeConza, 3 Samus Street, St. James. The location of the property, the southeast corner of Samus Street and 50 Acre Road South. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the front yard on 50 Acre Road South from the lot line from 10 feet to 0 for an existing 6-foot fence, to permit a fence greater than 4 feet in the required front yard for the existing 6-foot fence.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Amy Jo Lacanza. My husband and I are requesting a variance.
I'm sorry, could you just state your address, please?
Oh, I apologize. 3 Samus Street, St. James.
Thank you.
My husband and I are requesting a variance for an existing 6-foot fence that a variance already existed for. However, we were unaware that the variance was very specific to it maintaining being a chain link. And when we moved into our home in 2005, we went to town hall and asked some questions, and it was never told to us that we would, in essence, negate this variance by changing the chain link to PVC, because we put PVC around our entire property, so it would be more difficult for our kids to be able to climb and what have you. So the chain link difference came up when we recently applied for a pool permit. And it was brought to our attention that we no longer had a variance for the piece of fence that we had, because we had, in essence, negated it by changing the material type from chain link to PVC. So the fence being on the property line has been there since the previous homeowner. So in essence, it's been since 1999, maybe previous to that. That piece of property really being our front yard has been our backyard and the area where our children play and we entertain for, 12 years now. So in essence, it wouldn't, change the environment or be a nuisance to any of the neighbors, as all this time it's existed, and it's just that we changed the material type from chain link to PVC.
All right, thank you. Most of your fence is around a curve, isn't it?
Well, yeah, my fence is around my entire property, so
Right.
from my chimney all the way around my entire property, coming to the other side of my house.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone, excuse me, is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time. Have a good evening.
You too.
The next application on the agenda is case number 18198, James Brian Reese, 16 Beverly Court, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the east side of Beverly Court, 395 feet north of Soundview Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 75 feet to 49 feet, which is existing, for a 913 square foot proposed second floor addition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Chamaco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. As you can see, or there was the survey shown up there, the subject property presently has a setback of 49 feet. So we're not asking for any additional diminution of the 49-foot setback. We want to go up a second story, and it's really only a 913 proposed second floor addition. We meet all the other requirements of setbacks, and most importantly, the FAR is more than covered. So the only variance that we're asking you for is what we applied for, is to maintain the setback of 49 feet, which existed for many years. We don't think this would have an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. It really doesn't affect any neighbors. It's going up, it's not going sideways, and it's not going to the rear. Whether the applicant could do some other feasible method, not really. I guess he could extend on the first floor, but it doesn't work out with the floor plan of the house. So this seems to be the only real way to go with this application. Whether the variance is substantial, I think not. They built the house, and there was an approval many years ago for the 49-foot setback, so we're not changing anything. Based upon the building department and planning department rules, even though it exists, we still have to come in for the variance because we're doing a second floor. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse impact on the environment, no, we think not. It meets all health department requirements. It's in a half-acre zoning district. Whether the difficulty was self-created, well, we haven't done it yet. We're asking this board for its permission and for its favorable approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next application on the agenda is case number 18199, Woodvale Properties. The address is 23 Woodvale Avenue in Kings Park. The location is the east side of Woodvale Avenue, 148 feet north of Highland Place. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum south side yard from 12 feet to 3 feet, reduce the minimum required total side yards from 28 feet to 19 feet, reduce the minimum frontage at the setback line from 75 feet to 54 feet, a variance to disturb environmentally sensitive lands, slopes in excess of 15%, for proposed 1,776 square foot one-story, single-family dwelling with 323 square foot garage.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Chamaco. I represent the applicant. We've just submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Blaze. First of all, I want to thank the board for allowing a third hearing a third rehearing with respect to this matter. As this board knows, there were two earlier iterations with respect to applications that we wanted to build on the property. I think we heard you the third time this time, and we think we know what the board wants, and that is a situation where there is the non-conforming side yard of about 3.9 feet. We are not going up and doing any kind of second floor. We're not touching that side of the property. We are adding to the house, but it won't be a second story. It'll be part of the existing first story of the house. So the total square footage now that we're going to be building, if the board so approves, is 1,770 square feet. Certainly a lot less than our previous two applications. And as a matter of fact, one application before that we withdrew. So maybe it took us a little long to figure out what would work there, but I think we've got it now. My client has spoken to the lady that lives next door. I don't know if she's here tonight or not, and tried to explain to her what we were doing. So there won't be any second floor 3.5 feet or 3.9 feet looming down at her. We don't think this will be a change, an undesirable change in the character of the area. This will be an improvement because the house really is not in good shape, and this size house will fit in with the character of the area. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method. I think we tried all the other methods, and we finally, hopefully, got it right this time as a one-story ranch, which will not overpower the plot nor overpower the surrounding homeowners. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. We don't think the variance is substantial. Maybe it was in the past, but it certainly isn't now. It well fits in with the neighborhood as well as the FAR, which is not an issue. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the environment, we think not. It's merely an extension to the ranch house on the same level as the existing house. Was the alleged difficulty self-created? We didn't do it yet. We're asking the board for its favorable consideration with respect to this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question. Do we have any elevations? I didn't see an elevation in the file.
They weren't scanned? Yeah. It's the old case.
The old one?
No, the old case was 2 stories.
Do you know if they submitted elevations with the application?
I think they did, but I have another set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excuse me, if you're going to talk, could you just go back out into the library, please? All right, thank you.
You want these back, Mr. Chamaco? You want these back? Thank you.
No questions,
take a look.
Mr. Taylor?
No, I just wanted to see the section that was staying one story.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Do you have a motion to close the application, please?
I think she wants to speak in the back.
Yeah, you want to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her.
My name is Sandra Grover, and I reside next to the property, 21 Woodvale Avenue. And I have a regular driveway from my garage and a side driveway, which I need. And now it's a question whether it's on my property or theirs, and I'd like that decided tonight, please.
All right. Anything else?
No,
No? Just
no,
that?
it'll be very nice having a neighbor and not just an empty lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chamaco?
I have nothing else. We'll check the survey to see if there's any kind of driveway encroachment.
I don't see anything on the plan.
I didn't either, but I'll check it again.
Well, there's a note on the plan here that says asphalt, remove existing asphalt parking area to the property line. On the second page, whatever that's worth.
The existing site plan appears to show an encroachment. However, the proposed site plan does show a removal with a replacement of a new driveway.
So the woman that spoke, we're not touching her driveways, right?
Well, you will need to touch her property to remove the existing driveway from on her property. They're proposing constructing a new driveway entirely on their own property, but currently the access to this existing home crosses over her property.
All right, so with the new driveway that's put in, her driveway...
Would not be on her property any longer.
Okay. All right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second. Moving second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as you instructed, we are going to change the order of the following two hearings. The first case to be heard will be case number 1-17118, Ruby Pearl LLC, followed by case number 18200, which is SSRC Realty, the Watermill.
Thank you.
The first case will be case number 1-17118, Ruby Pearl LLC. The location of the property is the southeast corner of Annetta Avenue and Smithtown Boulevard. The property is owned NB and R10. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit 6 accessory apartments on the second floor, a variance to waive the special exception standard requiring adequate parking, variance to reduce the minimum parking from 79 to 59 spaces, variance to permit environmentally sensitive land, slopes in excess of 15% to be altered, variance to permit structures within 10 feet of environmentally sensitive land, slopes in excess of 25%, a variance to reduce the required buffer yards from 50 feet to 25 feet.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Chamaco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. First of all, I want to thank the chairman and the Watermill, and a little bit to Don King for allowing us to go first. So I'll make it very quick, and I thank the audience also. We had this application once before, I believe in 2014 or 15, and we revised it. And the revisions, I think, are not only beneficial to my client, but they're also beneficial to the town and to the applicant's present proposal is to build 6 apartments on the second floor, and as you all know, we really need apartments, residential apartments in the town of Smithtown, and less square footage on the first floor for commercial, retail use. Also, the planning department wrote a report which far better states this application than I could, and I'll just go over the points very quickly. They bring them all out, and they make a lot of sense. They pointed out in the PAR that the buffer requirements are 10 feet. However, with the use of the building of a retaining wall and a buffer against that, we far exceed the buffer requirements. There's also a graduated retaining wall in the back. So instead of 10 feet, I think we have 35 or 40 feet. There was one comment that the planning department made with respect to conditions. And we understand and we will go along with all the conditions. However, I would like the board to just look at, and if they feel comfortable with it, then we don't have a problem. They're concerned, the planning department, about a high volume use, such as a restaurant or a bar. And if they occupy more than a third or 2,500 square feet, it may cause parking congestion. The planning department graciously showed us and brought up the fact that all the parking that we are putting on the premises are all very accessible. Some parking spaces, as was indicated in the planning department report, in certain shopping centers are in the back of the building. Nobody uses them. Nobody even knows they're there. So although the condition, number one condition, is restrictive, if the board feels it's necessary, then we have no problem with it. So given all of the facts and given the fact that the most important fact is the planning department recommends approval with certain conditions, I believe the denial with prejudice with respect to the buffer yards from 50 to 25 is not necessary, so that's why they denied it with prejudice. We don't think it would be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. It's all business-oriented and apartments along Smithtown Boulevard. Whether the benefit could be accomplished in some other method, well, I guess you could make it smaller. However, it would be uneconomical for my client to do that. And this building, as recommended and recommended approval by the planning department, does generate a fair amount of taxes for the town of Smithtown. Whether the requested variance is substantial, not when you read the PAR, the planning report. As I said, they say it a lot better than I could, and I'll stand with that. Whether the proposed variance will have any adverse effect on the environment, the health department will have to approve. All the sanitary and the drainage will be approved by our engineering department. Was the difficulty self-created? No. We didn't do anything yet, and we're asking this board for their approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No, thank you.
Planning?
Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Chamaco pointed out, planning did prepare a planning advisory report recommending approval of the application subject to certain conditions. Primarily, what we're concerned about is the amount of parking on site. Because of the location of the property, if there were a problem with parking congestion on the site, Smithtown Boulevard is a very busy road. We certainly wouldn't want people parking on the road out on Smithtown Boulevard, which only gives them the option of parking on the residential street, which it is on the corner of, which is Annetta. So they may be parking on the street as well, and they could be parking in the shopping center or the multi-tenant use building to the north on Smithtown Boulevard as well. Being that it is a busy road, it is in an area where the line of sight is not very good. It's not very visible when you're heading south along Smithtown Boulevard. I'm sorry, east. I'm getting confused. We're concerned about parking. We're concerned about line of sight. And another thing that we're concerned about is obviously landscaping, buffer to the residence district to the adjoining properties. And we did recommend it with those conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, please. Yes. Could you state your name?
Name and address.
Spell your last name?
Sure.
and
My
give the
name
address
is
for the record?
sure. Sarah Grimaldi, Grimaldi, and my address is 52 Rhoda Avenue. One of our side street is Friendly, which is kind of adjacent to Annetta, and we just saw this the other day, so I'm not fully prepared, but looking back, can you just go back to the slide that shows the, so one of the first concerns is obviously the size of this, and then another issue that we're having with the water mill is the idea of encroaching or actually developing environmentally sensitive lands, something that the water mill's requesting on some of their variances, and then here there's a request for variances on environmentally sensitive lands with slopes in excess of 15%, is concerning. And then also, this is a large wooded area right now, so with a large development going in, there's going to be a lot of wildlife issues, ecological issues, and then we're looking at drainage issues. We continue to seem to want to put big developments in residential areas, which for, I think, probably most of everyone here is a resident within the surrounding area tonight with all these concerns. I also noticed there's an entrance or exit, or maybe both, on Annetta Avenue. That's also an issue for privacy, and like the gentleman, Blaze, was saying about parking. So we have possible parking issues for this on residential streets, and then the water mill is asking as well, which I know we'll talk about in a little bit, but I'm thinking they're asking for parking, less parking than they should have. So now I feel like the three streets within these two areas will potentially become parking for wedding guests at the water mill. Now this place over here. And also, I don't know if he mentioned what kind of sewage they'll be putting in, but this looks like a rather large building. What kind of sewage are we putting in? Because the drinking water, the contaminants are going in all these cesspools that we have. Is this going to be a cesspool thing? Are they going to hook up to something else? How is the sewage going to happen? And lastly, I would ask if there's apartments, are there going to be availability for Section 8 housing? Because I know there's a law with that as well. So that would be some main concerns, original, first main concerns without having any further information yet. But that would be, I think, concerns that probably a lot of us have in the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Tierno, Tierno. I live at number 10 Smithtown Boulevard, apartment number 1A. The reason for my objection to this is that these woods are environmentally sensitive. There's plenty of wildlife in there. There's box turtles in there, screech owls nesting in there, wintering great horned owls. It's one of the last remaining mature oak stands around. And it's just a shame that it has to be developed on a busy, we know how busy Smithtown Boulevard is. It's just, cars go up and down Smithtown Boulevard. It's terrible. So, anyway, thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Michael Santini. I live at 56 Shepherd Lane.
Could you spell your last name, please,
Sure,
Michael?
it's Piacentini.
Thank you.
And my backyard is directly behind what this development, where it would be, and I'm just afraid if they get rid of this 50-foot buffer, especially with this driveway, the cars are gonna be basically driving in my backyard, and the noise is gonna be absolutely ridiculous. And especially if a bar or something else goes in there, we'd be hearing noise till all hours of the night. So I just think it's pretty much unacceptable that this could ever get passed, so, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Cali Mitsanikos, Mitsanikos, and I have a home on Belinda Court, which is right by Friendly, which goes into Annetta. So the intersection of Annetta, Smithtown Boulevard, and Terry Road is already a very dangerous intersection because we have a fork, and then Annetta goes up the hill. Annetta is used as a cut-through from Terry Road. Rush hour, people are coming off the expressway up Terry Road. They come up onto Annetta, onto Friendly, to get to Rhoda, to get to 347 East. So they can miss the intersection of Terry Road and 347. So it's already a cut-through. It's a very high-traffic intersection. There are accidents quite frequently at that intersection because people are confused about the layout of the intersection. So often someone is trying to turn and someone's trying to go straight. Happens regularly. This building is going to be on that corner. And if you're talking about having 20 fewer parking spaces than what is recommended, and you have people parking on Annetta, it's a disaster waiting to happen because it's already a high-traffic, high-dangerous area. And I also share some of the concerns of Sarah about the slope. The woods go practically right up to the edge of the road, and the incline is steep like this. They're going to have to dig all the way back into that ground and put a retaining wall, and they're going to lose the natural wooded buffer for the poor folks that are living behind that. The wildlife disruption is also a big issue. The more natural land we take away, the more these critters are going to be invading into our yards. They're going to be destroying our yards. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to upset the wildlife. It's a high water table neighborhood, so where is all of this sewage? Where is all of this water going to drain off? So these are all concerns. I don't want to be too repetitive, but I'm mostly concerned about the traffic. It's a really dangerous intersection. I don't think it's a good idea to add more congestion to that area. And we also have many, many empty storefronts already on Smithtown Boulevard. It's starting to look a little blighted. In the shopping center right next to that property, there are 2, maybe 3 empty storefronts. There are others further down the boulevard. I don't think we need new construction until we can fill the buildings that we already have.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Evening. Hi, my name is Maureen Romano, Romano, and I live at 23 Friendly Road. And that lady actually hit on what I was going to say. If you go down Annetta, behind Friendly Road, you have a row of stores that are basically empty, and they're an eyesore. And in the back is very unkept. It's not paved. It's all sand. It's all dirt. People come and they hang out there at night and park their cars. So now you're going to put another shopping center across the street that you're not going to be able to fill. So now the bottom of the Friendly Road in Annetta is going to be one huge eyesore, not to mention the water table and the traffic. So my block, Friendly Road, will have traffic and parking between the watermill and now from your new shopping center on Annetta. So they might as well turn Friendly Road into a parking lot. Where is everybody going to go? You're pushing us out. Does anybody realize what's going on here? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh, Come on up.
Hi, my name is Patty Stoddard. I live at 400 Gibbs Pond Road, Nesconset.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Stoddard.
Thank you.
Just listening to what Mr. Chamaco said, his first words were, this would benefit the applicant and the town. What about the residents? Does anyone care what we want?
Look, you guys have been great so far. Please, no shouting out, because we're trying to get everything on the record. You know, and this is important to you, that all this gets on the record, you know? So if you could just refrain from shouting out, we'd appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
And I just feel that we're trying to justify why something shouldn't be done. They should be justifying why we need it. If we don't need it, we shouldn't have to have it. You know, maybe the tax base, whatever, may be somewhat profitable, but to who? We've been living without it for years and years and years. We don't need it. So I think we really have to think of what the community needs, what the people need, and not what the developers and the town needs.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there a gentleman back there who wanted to come on up? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Rodney Dorwan. I live at 19 Standish Place in Wisconsin.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Dorwin. I am the former Chief of Facilities for the Environmental Protection Agency in Region 2. I am most concerned not only about the environmental impact, but again about the water table. I have experience in developing the Raritan Arsenal Center and converting it into laboratory space. It's a 205-acre facility in New Jersey. And we sold that to commercial interests, the federal government did. In the course of developing Raritan Center, no real consideration was given to the sewage system, the water treatment, and or the drainage. Here we have all these factors coming into play where we're going to now remove a wooded area. We are going to do it in an area that is hilled. We are going to increase the amount of water and erosion that is now coming into our system and our drainage systems in the surrounding areas. What happens when commercial businesses do this or when they develop this, if there is a resulting problem with regard to drainage and sewage, it now becomes the problems of the residents that live in the areas surrounding these facilities. So I would urge you and caution you all very seriously that if this type of building or structure is going to go up, and it truly is something that the town wants and the commercial business wants, that perhaps you might want to take a step back and have somebody conduct an environmental study as well as take a look and review the drainage plan for this facility. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ken Sanger, 16 Belinda Court, Smithtown.
Could you just spell your last name for the record?
Sanger.
Thank you very much.
I've been in this area for over 25 years. So what I want you to take in consideration of history. Going on this block from where 7-Eleven is a curve to the right. People speed. There's a very high publicized accident from the Archer family where the individual and their son is now paralyzed. On this corner, it's very small because it's only two car lengths wide. So parking in Annetta, parking on Smithtown, is something that we have to worry about there. Second thing, I heard something tonight, the first time I hear about it, is that they were looking at, and maybe if I'm wrong, they're talking about maybe a bar or something like that of a restaurant. On that corner, and I know some of us talked about it before, there's 3 lanes coming in. There's countless accidents, no matter what. Now, and let's talk about history. When Bob Buckman was there, and the Jukebox Cafe and everything that was there, he has had accidents where people drink, they come right out, and they go right out because they do not understand that corner. I know there was a light that was put in. It used to be a blinking light. But that light does not have any direction of how people come down Annetta, come down Terry, come down Smithtown Boulevard. There's too many accidents come around. This accident is something that I believe in, because when I was a scoutmaster for 349 Smithtown. That was one of our scouts that was paralyzed, right in that corner. So this is a blind curve. I see people come down that block all the time. It's a blind curve, and if we have people that are parking there, we're going to have an issue of people going to have, someone's going to get hurt. I want on the record that I'm against it, because I don't want any more young kids to get hurt. I see people walking around with bikes all the time going down there, because it is a residential area. There is a cutoff. I know we talk about friendly, because it's really only 64 feet away. So when you make the cut onto, make the right onto Annetta, it's right onto Friendly. And there is a lot of cuts there because people see traffic at the light for Terry Road and 347, so they make the right, they go down to Rhoda Avenue, they make the left and go down to by Taco Bell and they leave. They always use that as a cutoff. Whenever there's an accident there, they always put people through that. So it's always known that it can happen. But that curve, all you have to do is drive from 7-Eleven, go around, it's to the right, you are blind. And they speed. Even at 30 miles an hour, there have been, just this year alone, 4 accidents over there. I live there, so I see it all the time. So please consider that for traffic, parking. I don't think we have enough parking over there, and they are going to bleed over into Annetta. They're going to bleed over into the street, especially on a busy day.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No one else on this case? All right, Mr. Chamaco, would you like to respond to some of the concerns?
Thank you. We are certainly concerned about the residents of Nesconset and the residents in the town of Smithtown. One of the things, I guess, it's my fault I didn't make clear that the property is zoned for this type of use. We're not asking this board to change the zone from woods or residential to business. It's already zoned that way. Additionally, this board, a couple of years ago, I believe, approved 4 apartments upstairs and more retail downstairs. We thought this was a better application. The gentleman that was concerned about the buffering is far greater than the ordinance requires. The ordinance requires, as the planning department states, is 10 feet. We're about 42 or 43 feet. So that issue certainly has been mitigated greatly, and we really don't have to do that. But not only is it good for us, but it is good for the residents. So we did try. As far as drainage and more importantly septic, we can't get approval from the health department unless we conform to their sanitary code. So regardless of what this board may or may not do with respect to the application, we need approval from the health department. The health department has reviewed this once already, and we feel confident that the health department will give us approval for this particular application. We tried to make it as best we could. One of the things that we can't do is leave it vacant. And the ordinance in the town of Smithtown does permit us to develop it, notwithstanding that there are woods there and certain species of animals that may be somewhat displaced, but there is 40 feet of buffering, so I don't know, maybe they can live there. Anyway, thanks for your time. We ask for your favorable approval. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second. Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
What? Don't take that.
Thank you.
He needs.
Like I said, you guys have been great so far. If you could just refrain, I know everybody wants to speak, and you will all be given the opportunity to speak. But if you could just refrain from speaking out, we greatly appreciate it, because like I said, reporter might miss something that's beneficial to you. Okay? So if you could just do that, I
Let's
would
take a
greatly
5-minute
appreciate
break.
it.
5 minutes, he needs a 5-minute break.
What?
5-minute break, Ed.
5-minute break.
You want a break now? What? All right. I'm sorry, we're just going to take a 5-minute break.
Case on the agenda, case number 18200, SSRC Realty LLC, also known as the Watermill, 711 Smithtown Bypass, Smithtown, the location of the property, the southwest corner of Route 347 and Terry Road. The property is zoned NB and WSI. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum height of a building from 35 feet to 45 feet. Variance to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered, slopes in excess of 15%. Variance to permit structures within 10 feet of environmentally sensitive land, slopes in excess of 25%. Variance to increase the number of permitted guest rooms from 100 to 130, to reduce the minimum parking setback from a property line from 31 feet to 6 feet along Route 347, and from 25 feet to 31 feet to 25 feet along Rhoda Avenue. To reduce the required front landscaping in the front yard from 8% to 3%. A variance to decrease the required parking from 501 to 337 spaces. To increase the maximum gross floor area of the lot from 50% to 59% in the WSI portion, which includes a portion of the existing restaurant. A variance of a special exception standard that requires adequate lot area, adequate parking, and adequate buffers for a proposed 96,788 square foot, 4-story hotel.
Good evening.
Good evening. Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York. We appeared before the town board on a special exception. There's 3 requirements. We meet the special exception requirements. Therefore, the hotel must be granted. This isn't Dancing with the Stars where applause counts. So there was outbursts and applause and booing the last time. That's not what this is about. This is about the Zoning Board of Appeals. This property is, and it's not right that they're applauding and booing and hissing during presentation.
Can you grab me that plan? The plan.
There you go.
Look, let him do the presentation first. When he's done, everybody will be given one opportunity to come on up and voice your opinion. Again, please, refrain from calling out. Thank you.
It would seem to me that if you purchased a home adjacent to wholesale service and industry property and neighborhood business property, and it was owned by Tony Scotto, there might be a chance of the development. We're not asking for a zone change. This is a permitted use on this site. Tony built Fox Hollow, he built Insignia, he built Rare 560, 1 North. Everything he does correctly. He has an absolute right to improve this property. It's zoned for a hotel. The only question before you now tonight are the variances where planning has come up with some ideas that I think are incorrect. The first being that this is a restaurant. They're treating it as a restaurant. It's not a restaurant. You cannot go there and have a steak dinner at any time. It's a catering facility. I'm going to hand up to you the definition of restaurant in the zoning ordinance. And it says that if there's outdoor dining, if you eat outside, it's not a restaurant. This is the town's ordinance. You're obligated to follow that ordinance. And if it says it's not a restaurant, you can't make it up that it's a restaurant.
Thank you.
It matters not if we were at Shea Stadium and everybody in the building or in Shea Stadium was against it. That's not what it's about. This isn't about applause or the number of people. There's nothing in the ordinance that says, I don't like it, therefore it must be denied. It's business property. He has a right to develop it. And there's nothing in the ordinance that says if 221 and a half people are against it, it has to go down. Now, I'm going to hand up to you again this evening Sonic, and I've highlighted some of the paragraphs in Sonic where this zoning board of appeals had an obligation to grant something. Unlike a use variance, special exception allows a property owner to put his property to use expressly permitted in the ordinance, subject only to the conditions attached to minimize the impact on surrounding area. The significance of this distinction is that the inclusion of the permitted use in the ordinance is tantamount to a legislative finding that the permitted use is in harmony with the general zoning plan and will not adversely affect the neighborhood. This is Sonic. If the owner is seeking a special exception, as we are here, it only required to show compliance with any of the legislatively imposed conditions on an otherwise permitted use. We meet the requirements. The board may not base its decision solely on generalized community objection. They can object all they want. The law, the case law says that's not the decisive factor. Moreover, expert opinion regarding traffic patterns when presented may not be disregarded in favor of generalized community opposition. The only thing you're allowed to look at is empirical evidence and expert evidence. The people here are experts. People are entitled to voice their opinion, but that's not expert evidence. Generalized or unsubstantiated complaint from neighbors unsupported by empirical or expert evidence are generally insufficient for a zoning board to base its decision on it. The zoning board had denied a special exception on the ground that the use was characterized by late-hour noise, outdoor congregation, conversation, vehicular movement, rubbish, and odors, which amounted to an objection to the nature of the use itself, and the denial also appeared to be impermissible based in part on generalized objections by members of the adjoining residential neighborhood. That doesn't matter. One woman at the last hearing said, there's going to be lewdness and nakedness. What the heck does that have to do with the application? So while they may object, it's meaningless when you have a special exception and you have expert witnesses. I'd like now to have Bill Lottie come up, the engineer for the project. He'll be followed by Wayne Muller, the traffic expert, and John Breslin, who's the foremost real estate expert on Long Island.
All right, thank you.
William Lottie, L-A-H-T-I, Lottie Engineering, 207 Halleck Road, Stony Brook, New York. What we're handing up now are elevations of the building, renderings, and also a memo, which is going to summarize and hit every point that's part of my testimony and perhaps some that I'm going to omit in the sake of brevity. With regard to the community and the benefits that this community can get from this project, Mr. Scotto is going to spend upwards of $1 million to connect the water mill and this hotel to Suffolk County Sewer District Number 4. We have to run pipes. Thank you. Thanks. We have to install certain equipment underground on site. We have to run hundreds of feet of pipe along the state highway and then under the state highway across to make the connection. So in terms of what the neighbors have said consistently, they're all worried about wastewater. Where's the wastewater going? We have high groundwater area. If this project doesn't get approved, then that connection doesn't get made to the sewer district. And therefore, all the water that's currently being discharged on site is going to remain being discharged on site. And that's in excess of 300,000 gallons a month. So it's very critical to the community that the wastewater from the hotel and the catering facility be permitted to go across the street to the water authority, to the Suffolk County Sewer District. But again, unless we get the necessary rooms, and that's what it comes down to, which is part of the variance, we need 130 rooms to make this project financially feasible. If we don't have 130 rooms, we're not going to be able to fund this project and get it off the ground and do what needs to be done. With regard to another benefit to the community, there's about $650,000 in tax revenue that will come into this town with no strain on the school system whatsoever. It's a commercial business. It's another $650,000 plus dollars into the revenue stream with no drain on your school system. The other aspect is there are two commercial buildings currently on the site. It's a corner of Rhoda and Terry. There are two small commercial buildings. Those buildings are going to be demolished. The parking lots are going to be gone, and we're actually going to discontinue use of the connection to Rhoda. So that's a third benefit directly to the community. With regard to the variances themselves, the first one in the order that the building denial came out in has to do with the maximum height of the building. In order for this project to be financially feasible, as I stated before, we need the 130 guest rooms. Instead of going laterally to try and get those guest rooms, we went upward. We kept the building footprint as compact as possible. We also took the footprint and moved it as far away from the nearest residences as possible. If you give me a minute, I'll get a slide up. Okay. The first slide up here is an office building located at 732 Smithtown Bypass. That's about 500 feet away from the subject site. This building has a top height of about 51 feet. The highest point of the hotel is going to be about 49 feet. Their roof is about 36 to 37 feet. We're at about 45 feet. But our roof is hidden behind the facade, so you can't truly even see where the actual roof line is, which is how the code is defined. It's defined by the roof height, not the height of the building itself. So this building that's about 600, 700 feet away from us is already higher in total height than the hotel will be. We're in an industrial corridor district. The WSI runs from where we are all the way down to where the Taco Bell is. There are residences, R10 abutting us, but it's a WSI industrial zone district. And a WSI use can go in our site and can go into all the other sites along 347. Okay. With regard to the neighboring residences, this is a aerial photograph, of course. What we've done is superimpose the topographic elevations. Topographic elevations are the elevation of the land above mean sea level. If you look at the photograph, the nearest houses to where the hotel would be are about 312 feet to the closest point of the hotel, to the closest point of number 6 and number 8 Belinda Court. The hotel roof is going to have an elevation of 115.5 above mean sea level. The roofs at 6 and 8 Belinda Court are already higher than what the highest point of the hotel roof is going to be. So we're not going to tower over them whatsoever. Our roof is actually below their roofs. In between the two of us, the residence and the commercial building, the hotel, we have a whole stand of trees. Those trees in that area are not being removed. The treetops there are at about 150 feet. Our hotel, it was at 115 at the roof. The trees are at 150. We can't see each other. Residences can't see us, and we can't see them. Now, to further demonstrate that, we sent a drone up. We went to the parking lot. I put the drone exactly where the northeast corner window is going to be, which is the window closest to the residences. We set it at elevation 40. That's a 6-foot man standing in the window at the northeast corner of that hotel. If you look east, that's what you see. If you look southeast, that's what you see. I'm going in a 180-degree rotation, starting from east to west. Third photograph, that's what you see. Those are the trees. You can't see anything, and they can't see us. Now, all these photographs are part of the memo that I've already handed up to the board, so you can look at them in detail. You don't see anything. We don't see them. They don't see us. So the height, in terms of this building height and this variance request, we're not impacting the residential neighbors because the residential neighbors are so much higher than us to start with in terms of topography. If we were both on equal playing field, absolutely true. But they're starting over 20 feet higher than where our building sits. Also in the memo, you'll see that there are 2 cases where this board on September 10th of 1985, case number 8544, granted a height variance from 35 to 59 feet for the Hampton Inn located in Comac. Copy of that decision is part of this memo. And then on May 23rd, 2012, the board granted a height variance, this board granted a height variance from 35 to 45 feet for Smithtown, Long Island Hotel Properties, case number 16644. And that's almost identical to the height variance that we're requesting. And that decision is also part of this memo. With regard to environmentally sensitive lands, the term environmentally sensitive land, in my opinion, is a little bit misleading. We're talking about a steep slope area. There's really nothing else environmentally sensitive about it other than the slope exceeds 15%. That's the only significance of it. What we're doing is we're going to disturb less than 5,400 square feet of property, which is environmentally sensitive. That's 1.7% of the entire property here. This board routinely grants variances for environmentally sensitive lands to be disturbed, far in excess of the 1.7% that we're requesting. Next variance was for permitting structures within 10 feet of an environmentally sensitive land, that being a slope. The only structure that's within the 25% slope environmentally sensitive land is a retaining wall. The retaining wall is there because we didn't want to disturb more environmentally sensitive land. That's why we built the retaining wall. That's why we proposed it. There's no other structure going near the 25% ESL. It's just a retaining wall to minimize and mitigate disturbance of the hillside. With regard to the next variance, which was increase the number of guest rooms from 100 to 130, we do not agree with the town planning board on this. The site is split zoned. Nowhere in the zoning code does it state that a split zone site, you only use the one portion when calculating the number of guests, the square area required per guest room. Nowhere in the code does it state that. The town used the WSI zone portion of the site only to calculate the allowable guest rooms at 100. If you use the entire property area, and we believe we have a good legal standing on this because there's nothing in the town code that says otherwise, and in fact, the town code is very specific in terms of its definitions. We use the entire property area, and we're providing 2,148 square feet, where only 1,500 is required. So we don't believe that that variance is necessary. However, if the board makes a determination that split zone sites, you can only use the one zoning section that applies to your use, then I want to bring your attention to the May 23rd, 2012 variance, BZA case number 16644, where this board approved a reduction from 1,800 square foot per guest room down to 1,031.5 square feet. If you look at what we're proposing, under a worst case scenario, the town planning board's own calculations, we're providing 1,388 square feet per guest room, if you only count the WSI as the planning department wants to do. We're far in excess of what the variance was already granted for similar hotel use by this board. With regard to the reduced parking setbacks from the front property lines, Route 347 is a multi-lane divided state highway. We purposely took the building and moved it as far to that highway as possible to have the greatest separation from the residences in the back. That was purposely done Because if you have a 6-foot front yard along a state multi-lane highway, it doesn't impact anyone. No one at all is impacted by that. Prior to us making the application, the state DOT had done an eminent domain and taken 4 feet of property. So our 10 feet shrunk down to 6 feet when the state took it. As part of that state highway project, they also built a 20-foot wide common use area, the bicycle lane and the landscaping. That effectively adds another 20 feet. So we have about 30 feet between the curb of 347 and where our parking lot curb is. So technically you need 31 to your property line, but effectively we've provided 30 using the state buffer, the 4 foot that was taken by the state, plus the 6 foot on site. And again, we moved the building purposely to keep it away from the residences. That's why we moved it up front. It doesn't impact anybody. With regard to Rhoda, if you look at Rhoda, there's a commercial building on the corner of Rhoda and Terry. That has a 0 setback. There's 0. It's right on the property line right now. We're removing that, and we're going to be providing a 25-foot setback, which doesn't exist now. It's an improvement over the existing conditions. Next one was to reduce the front landscaping from 8% down to 3%. Again, all this is summarized in the memo I provided because it is detailed. We did a calculation. We don't know where the planning department came up with 3%. We did the area calculation for the area along Route 347, and then the area of the landscaping along Rhoda, using the criteria set in the town code. And we come up with 7.8%, where 8% is required. We have 2 front yards, Rhoda and 347. The code doesn't say which percentage has to be in which front yard. It just tells you what the total percentage has to be. And based on our calculations, which are included in the memo, we come up with 7.8, where 8% is required. If, however, you agree with the planning board calculations, then I'd like to bring your attention again to the fact that we moved the building purposely towards Route 347 to get it away from the residences, and 2 acres of this entire site is left in a vegetated state. We have 33% of all the land that could be used is left as natural wooded area. So we're far beyond what the green requirements are. We could develop far more if we wanted to or needed to, but we're not. We're leaving 2 acres in its natural state. With regard to the parking variance from 501 down to 337, Mr. King touched upon this quickly before. We do not agree with the planning department in terms of deeming this a restaurant. The restaurant, and you'll find this in the memo, came from a BZA decision back in 1987, where the BZA board at that time, the applicant was a catering facility, the Watermill, predecessor to the current owners, came in for an assembly hall use parking variance, I think it was, or an expansion, an expansion. And in that decision, the BZA denied the special exception, but granted it because they treated it as a restaurant instead of a catering hall. It was applied to as a catering hall. It's still a catering hall. You can't just come and go as you please. This is a catering hall. People make event plans for hundreds of people, years in advance, come for a 5-hour period and leave. That is not a restaurant. It is a catering hall. So you can't calculate parking based on a restaurant use. When you get to the traffic study that will be presented later on, you'll see that we've done the studies at the existing catering facility. We've done studies at the Fox Hollow in Westbury, which is a Mr. Scotto property. And that has a hotel next to a catering facility. We have actual good empirical data as to what's going on both sites. And the traffic study will demonstrate that we have adequate parking. If we didn't have adequate parking, we'd take some trees down because we have 33%, 2 acres left, and put more parking in because we can. We're not. Our objective was to keep as much green space as possible. We're only proposing the number of stalls that we feel is necessary to run this operation and the number of stalls that have been demonstrated through empirical data to be necessary to run both operations. I'd also like to bring your attention, if you believe that the planning board is right in staying with the categorization as a restaurant use and therefore you need 501 parking stalls, then we have the R&M traffic study which will be presented. And we also have a decision on May 23rd, 2012 by this board, case number 16643, where the parking stall requirement of 553 was reduced down to 347. That's a 32.4% reduction. If you look at our reduction from 501 down to 337, using the planning department's calculation, that's a reduction of 32.7. We're off by 0.3% from the grant this board previously gave to another hotel. With regard to increasing the gross floor area of lot from 50 to 59, this goes back to the issue of whether or not you use a split zone site, you only use the WSI portion as part of the calculation. The planning department has used only the WSI portion. Again, I don't believe there's any legal basis, nor does Mr. King, in the town code to use only the WSI portion for a split zone site. Site area and floor area are defined in the code. This property was transferred as 8 contiguous lots under one deed. The one corner parcel, the one commercial building, was transferred and conveyed before the 8 watermill parcels. Currently, the health department has us, we have to agree to, as part of the connection to the sewer district, to consolidate all of these lots into one deed now. So this is one lot. It's been operating as one unified parcel since 2003. And now we're going to memorialize that because we have to file a new deed merging all the parcels. Again, it comes back to the calculation of what is site area when you use it for floor area calculations. You have to use the entire site area, not just the WSI portion. It is one contiguous site. And there is nothing in the code that says otherwise. If, however, you agree with the planning department and say that you can only use the WSI portion, I'll bring your attention to the May 23rd, 2012 decision, BZA case 16643, where this board granted a reduction from the ratio from 52 down to 42, excuse me, the other way around, 42 up to 52, which is a 23.8% increase. Ours would be 50 to 59, which is only an 18% increase, which is less than what this board has already granted for another hotel. With regard to the variances for the special exception standards, which is the lot area, the parking, and the buffers, it's a restatement, again, laid out in this memo for you to go through and digest. It's a restatement of everything I just said, and it really comes down to what was used to compute the lot area, the site area. If you only use WSI, that generates the need for these variances. If you use the entire site area, as we believe we legally have the right to do, these variances are moot. You don't need them. With regard to the section 322-94G9, which has to do with buffers, we have huge buffers already. Our buffers exceed what's required by code. As I stated, we have 2 acres of green space. We have trees that are going to remain. The nearest house is 312 feet away and uphill from us. So there's no question that our buffers are functionally satisfactory, and certainly in terms of the town code, and functionally effective, because not only is there a horizontal separation, there's also that vertical separation which needs to be taken into account. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
The 130 rooms, is that at 100% occupancy in order for this to work?
That's well, the occupancy rate is not 100%. You have to, based on the Fox Hollow data, we know what the occupancy rate is. We need the 130 rooms because on the peak days, the Friday or the Saturdays, that's when we need the 100%. During the week, it's not going to be anywhere near capacity. But those weekends, you need to fill those rooms in order to make this financially feasible, especially considering the extra expense that we have to incur connecting to the sewer district.
So what's the average occupancy?
It depends on the day of the week. On the weekends, it's about 100%. Otherwise, I believe it was 80%, 75 to 80% the other days of the week, based on Fox Hollow data.
Okay. Now, when you're connecting to the sewers, are you connecting to a pumping station?
No. There's
directly into the sewers?
Yes, directly into a gravity sewer manhole, right by the Carrabba's entrance. On the west side of Carrabba's, there's a sewer manhole there with a stub that comes out towards Route 347. That's the stub we're going to connect to. That gravity flows into the sewer district.
Thank you.
Wayne Muller's up next. He'll handle the traffic situation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman, members of the board. My name is Wayne Muller with the firm of Robinson and Muller Engineering. Our offices are at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. For the record, I'd like to submit 2 documents. The first document, Mr. King would like me to submit. It's a document titled Sirota LLC versus Town of Smithtown Board of Zoning Appeals. Looks like it's dated 2014. And then I'd like to submit for the record copies of a letter and attachments that I have prepared dated July 16, 2019.
Thank you.
Again, I'd like to briefly just summarize the information that's contained in my July 16, 2019 report. As indicated in the letter, our firm has prepared a traffic impact study dated March 15, 2019, last revised July 16, 2019 for the above reference application. The July 16, 2019 updated traffic study is made part of the record as an attachment to the document which I just handed up. The March 2015-2019 document has been previously submitted to the town board at the town board public hearing. The traffic impact study prepared by my firm was prepared in accordance with the recognized standards and procedures of the New York State Department of Transportation and the Suffolk County Department of Public Works for the preparation of these types of analyses. What I would like to do now is describe what's in the reports and the attaching documents. As the board is aware, the project site is located on the southeast corner of the intersection of New York State Route 347 and Terry Road, which is County Road 16. As depicted on the plans prepared by Lottie Engineering and Environmental Consulting, PC, which I'll refer to as Lottie Engineering, it is to propose to construct a 4-story, 130-room hotel on the property that currently contains the Watermill Catering Facility. As displayed on the plans, there'll be 2 access points to the project. The first access point will be on Terry Road, County Road 16, essentially in its present location. And the second driveway will be constructed on New York State Route 347, east of its present location. As part of the process, the plans prepared by Mr. Lottie were submitted by the town to the Suffolk County Department of Public Works. And as a result of that submission, they prepared a document dated April 9, 2019, back to the town, acknowledging the submission. And in the document, they indicated that they have no comments at this point regarding the plans that were submitted to the county for their review. A copy of that correspondence is attached to my document. In addition, as indicated by Mr. Lottie and as indicated in the planning memorandum, numerous forms of relief are required to construct the project depending on the interpretation taken by this board. As it relates to the potential traffic and parking impacts associated with the construction of the proposed hotel, as presented at the town board hearing, the applicant, Mr. Scotto, at his similar facility, the Fox Hollow, has determined that on Friday and Saturday night, 60% of the hotel guests also attend a function at the catering facility. In my opinion, and as indicated in my letter, there is a definite synergy between the catering use and a hotel that are constructed on the same property. A copy of the correspondence from Mr. Scotto dated May 20, 2019 is attached to my letter. The traffic impact study prepared by my firm was very conservative in nature. The analysis that we performed as it relates to the traffic impacts associated with the proposed project did not account for the synergy between the 2 uses, meaning the existing catering facility and the proposed hotel. We wanted to present as a conservative analysis as we could. As indicated in the report, 100% of the hotel traffic that we generated using Institute of Transportation Engineers statistics for a hotel. And what I'd like to point out is that the definition of a hotel that the Institute of Transportation uses for a hotel is that of a full-service hotel, meaning it has built-in catering facilities, restaurants, probably health clubs, maybe some ancillary shops. The hotel that's proposed at the Watermill facility will have none of those extra accoutrements that would generally be open to the general public. There may be some small ancillary facilities inside the building, but they'll only be available for hotel guests. There won't be a separate restaurant within the hotel that some hotels may have that are open to the general public. The results of our analysis revealed that the traffic generated by the proposed hotel superimposed onto the traffic generated by the existing catering facility and the traffic generated within the existing roadway network would not have a significant impact on area traffic conditions. That being the intersection of New York State 347 and Terry Road, the site driveway on Terry Road, the intersection of Terry Road and Rhoda Avenue, and also the site driveway on New York State 347. As I presented at the town board hearing, the New York State DOT compiles various different traffic volume statistics that are available on their website. On New York State Route 347 and on Terry Road, there is available data which indicates how much traffic these two roadways are handling at the present time. New York State Route 347 experiences a daily traffic volume of 43,267 vehicles per day. Terry Road experiences a traffic volume of 14,658 vehicles today. So both roadways that are along the site frontage handle or experience a total of 57,925 vehicles per day, which is a pretty large number. We have determined that by accounting for the synergy between the hotel and the catering facility, the proposed hotel would generate 636 newly generated trips per day over one day in a 24-hour period. Therefore, as it relates to the roadway network surrounding the property, the increase in traffic generated by the hotel would be approximately 1%. In my opinion, that percentage increase in traffic is very insignificant and would represent an imperceptible change to the operation of the roadway network surrounding the site. And that's further verified by the analyses that we performed. Additionally, according to the denial, a 100-room hotel would be permitted to be constructed on the property. The proposed project represents an increase in 30 rooms from the 100 that would be approved. We performed an analysis that's summarized actually in the last page of the document which I submitted dated July 16, 2019, and that document's labeled Table A. And what that shows is the difference in the traffic generated by a 130-room hotel versus a 100-room hotel. And then what we did was we accounted for the synergy between the hotel and the catering facility. And what we found was that during the Friday peak hour, there would be an increase in 8 trips due to the addition of the 30 rooms on a weekday. And then on Saturday, there would be an addition of 11 trips based on the increase in the 30 rooms during the Saturday afternoon. Again, in my opinion, that level of increase in traffic, 8 in the weekday afternoon and 11 on Saturday, in my opinion, is very de minimis and will not have a significant impact on traffic conditions within the study area or within the roadway network surrounding the site. As it relates to the quantity of required and provided parking on the property, as depicted on the plans prepared by Mr. Lottie, and in accordance with the town code, his calculations indicate that 310 parking spaces would be provided and that 337 parking spaces would be provided on the property. 290 would be paved and 47 would be land banked, meaning that they could be paved in the future if the need so arose, that the town or the applicant found that those parking spaces were needed, they could be paved to bring the total up to 337. Based on the studies that we performed at the property, it's my opinion that that the existing use at the Watermill catering facility is not akin to a traditional restaurant where you would call up, make a reservation, either by yourself or with a significant other, and then go have dinner within an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and then leave, and then the tables continuously turn over. This is a catering hall. Basically, people come at the beginning of the function, most stay for the function, have dinner, dessert, and then leave. They're there for a much longer period of time. There is no continual turnover of the seating within the catering facility. The functions have a pretty much definitive time frame. The people come, they enjoy themselves at the functions, and then they leave. As presented in the traffic impact study and based on the observations that we performed at the existing Watermill site, and then what we did was we calculated the quantity of parking that would be available, or excuse me, that would be required by the hotel. We found that there would be adequate parking provided on the property to satisfy the demand based on the observations of the parking that we observed at the Watermill facility. However, as I indicated at the town board, we took that analysis one step further. During the timeframes that we analyzed the parking, the capacity of the Watermill was not at 100%. Traditionally or typically, based on the times that we've been there, has not been at 100%. But we performed an analysis to determine what the parking capacity or what the parking utilization would be if we were to have the Watermill functioning at 100%, and that would be 588 persons within the two main function rooms. Based on our calculations, we would anticipate that there would be a total of 287 vehicles parked on the property. That'd be the vehicles associated with the Watermill catering facility and that with the hotel. As I indicated previously, there are 290 paved parking spaces on the property. Therefore, we believe that the 290 paved stalls would be adequate to satisfy the demand without the need to un-land bank the land bank parking and pave those spaces. So in any event, we believe that the 337 parking spaces that are proposed on the property as indicated on the plans prepared by Lottie Engineering are more than sufficient to accommodate the demand. And one thing I did testify to, and that the board is probably fully aware, is that within the last 3 to 5 years, the New York State Department of Transportation, within the last 2 or 3 years, recently completed a significant roadway improvement project on New York State Route 347 and on Terry Road, both north and south of the site. The capacity of New York State Route 347 was significantly improved by the addition of through lanes, turning lanes on both 347 and on Terry Road. The capacity of that intersection, again, was significantly improved. And that's another reason why I believe that the traffic impact associated with the hotel would be de minimis, if not imperceptible. Finally, many of the residents at the town board public hearing expressed a concern about the traffic generated by the proposed hotel traveling on Rhoda Avenue to patronize nearby establishments such as Dunkin' Donuts, 7-Eleven, and Taco Bell. And one of the residents who spoke at the hearing indicated, in quotes, for the late night runs, the beer runs. In my professional opinion, I believe that their concerns are unfounded. The traffic volumes experienced on New York State Route 347 and Terry Road during the late night hours or the off-peak hours are relatively low. I don't know of any traffic conditions at the late night areas after functions where there would be any reason for anybody to leave the hotel facility and travel on Rhoda Avenue as an alternative from traveling on New York State Route 347 where the speed limit is significantly higher and you're only really stopping at 2 traffic lights. That would be one at Southern Boulevard and one at Terry Road. So therefore, I do not believe that there would be a significant impact or any impact at all to the traffic conditions on Rhoda Avenue. Therefore, based on the analyses that we performed, it is my professional opinion that the traffic generated by the proposed project will not have a deleterious effect on future traffic conditions on the surrounding roadway network. And additionally, adequate parking has been provided on site to satisfy the anticipated demand of the proposed hotel and the catering facility. And finally, that the increase in traffic due to the addition of the additional 30 rooms, in my opinion, is very de minimis and will not have a significant impact on the overall traffic conditions within the study area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is John Breslin, the premier real estate expert on Long Island, who has testified at least 1,000 times before various boards.
Good evening. Good evening. It's a tough introduction to follow, but again, my